Welcome back, everyone, to the Brain Soul Success Show. I'm super excited to be with my friend Elizabeth Locey. You will love her. She is a spiritual mentor who's helped accomplished women step really into their legendary selves, where their soul essence isn't just along the ride, but fully in the driver's seat. Formerly a tenured professor of French and women's studies, Elizabeth left that academia scene to guide women in integrating their success, their intuition, their soul level alignment. That's where we align, right? And
Mm.
our listeners here. I'm really helping them reclaim their hidden gifts and creating lives of true impact and fulfillment. She's known for her work with the Akashic Records. And so we're going to dive into that today and learn more about that. And Elizabeth helps clients to really unlock that raw truth of their soul essence and to turn any remaining obstacles into stepping stones and doubt into their abiding confidence so they can really soar in their lives. Elizabeth, it's such a joy and a gift to be with you today. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Likewise, Louise, I just love you to death. Radiance is one of my things, but you also just radiate all the time. Joy
Well,
and love and
thank
truth and
you.
peace and all the things.
Thank you. You know, we were just talking even before we hit record here about that you spend some of your time in France as well, and that you're the queen of France. And I was joking with Elizabeth. But maybe it's going to happen, you guys. I was like, well, maybe I should just go visit, take a year off, and visit all of my friends all over the world. Can I come to France? Um,
Why not?
why why not, right? Um, well, hey, you know what? We want to find out more about you though. So how did you even so you just ditched academia. You're like, nope, I'm not going to do that anymore. And you ended up just starting your own business. How did that all
Well,
happen?
that was it was a process, right? And
Mhm.
so I it was a pretty toxic atmosphere, and as soon as I was tenured, I was named interim chair of my department because it was not in great shape. The chair who came in at the same time as I did, he had been a chair at quite a nice university in Ohio, and but then I think he was in pre-retirement or something. He just didn't want to deal with the hard stuff. And so when I took over, newly minted tenured professor, the dean told me, like, yeah, your first 2 months as chair were like 2 years. And so there was a lot. And I cleaned up as much toxicity as I could. And then, and then I had a daughter. And by the time she was almost 4, I'm like, gosh, things were so toxic. And this was the very
Mhm.
first day of 2010. And we were visiting my sister in Utah, and my husband said, well, what's the matter? And I said, I think I just don't want to go back to work. And
Mhm.
he said the words that someone who was raised in a family of tenured professors could not even think, which was, why don't you quit? I mean, tenure is such a it's like saying, oh, why don't you give back the Powerball? Right? It's something that is so rare and so coveted and so desired by so many thousands of professors that you just don't think
You
of
just
giving it
don't
back.
do that. Yeah.
And so when he said that, it was like time slowed way down, and I watched his words kind of come to me. And when they hit my body, it rang like a gong. I was like, oh,
Mhm.
I think I will. And so I turned around to email my dean, and he said, wait. Do, do you need to never go back in there again, or would you teach until the end of your contract in May? And I was like, oh, I can, if this isn't a life sentence anymore, I'm totally good with teaching until May.
Mhm.
And that's when I left. It was,
Wow. Wow. Well,
and
good for you for listening to that,
thank you.
that gong that hit you and also the words your
Right.
husband said. Yeah.
I mean, so many people, tenured people, untenured people in academia have asked me over the past 15 years, because this was over 15 years ago, like, how did you have the chutzpah to do that? And
Mhm.
I said, well, to me, it wasn't about the courage to leave. It was like I was in a cave filling up with water and the escape route was going to be blocked forever. It was like my one chance to get out, and I took it. So that's what it felt like to me. And I have not looked back. I mean, it has been an adventure. Being an entrepreneur is,
Mhm.
that's a hard road to hoe sometimes,
Mhm.
but it has been so good. And I've met so many people, and all the things I loved doing as a professor,
Mhm.
such as having a great impact in people's lives, widening people's horizons, seeing the light bulbs go off, um, really enriching people. I do
Mhm.
that every day
Yes, I
in my
know, that's
current
my
work.
passion too, I totally get it, and people listening here, I'm sure get how did you get into Akashic record reading then, though? How did that start?
You know, I had a woman who started off as my therapist. I think everyone needs a therapist, by the way. She started off as my therapist, and then slowly but surely, she was like, you know what? You don't really need a therapist, but we both need friends. Why don't we go to lunch on Fridays? And so and this was my intuitive training, really. So,
Oh.
and because she was highly intuitive, and it was with her that I kind of broke through my sort of like blinders that were installed through academia, right? Like, oh,
Mhm.
channeling is something made up to manipulate woolly minded people. And until I had that huge aha moment, which I could talk about, but it's not necessary, right? But that
Mhm.
was the thing that
Mhm.
broke me through. In a microsecond, I went from thinking like, this is just made up to, oh, wow, it's for real. And so, yeah, she,
Tell us what that is too, for people here who don't know. Can you define, Akashic records, what that is? And if someone were to experience that, what that's like?
mm. So Akashic Records, sometimes they get figured as a spiritual library. I like to think of them as the compendium of all wisdom and knowledge from all space and time held
Mhm.
in a place. And I've asked the Akashic Record keepers, they're like a mashup of cosmic research librarians and like Swiss guards. They're real guardians and very fierce. But they're also like they're the ones who go and fetch the answers for you, like in before the
Mhm.
internet, right? When those of us who are older, like me,
Yes.
we
Uh-huh.
remember research libraries where you had to like fill out the slip and take it up to the desk, and they might bring it back the next day or something. Um, but so yeah, the Akashic Record keepers are these like cosmic librarians who bring the answers, and the Akashic Records are so vast and so powerful. Every person, every event, every
Mhm.
place, even lots of pets uh, have their own Akashic record. And it's so fun. Like,
Is it
it's so,
is so like Akashic records? I mean, I had this done years ago, and so now I'm curious, and I think people here are curious listening too. It's a reading, right? Somebody you're a highly intuitive Akashic record. You're reading the soul level stuff. See if I'm right here when I
mhm.
try to describe this. The soul level of the person's like eternity, their infinite body, if you will, of all time. And it gives them insights into possibly a personality thing or something that's going on with them. Am I explaining that right?
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, the way I work with people, which is a little different from most readers, I know for sure that
Mhm.
asking the right question will get you a much better answer than asking a question that's okay. But
Uh-huh.
like really zeroing in on exactly that thing that you need
Hmm.
to know
Hmm.
and putting the right words on it is so important. Um, I can remember back in 2011, I guess I was working with a woman who was a fellow masterminder. We had the same coach, and she lived in New York City, but I would travel to Manhattan 4 times a year. And so she hired me to work with her, and she asked her question was one of her questions, because we were going over the questions before we got into her records. She said, well, am I going to be successful in business? And I looked at her and I said, and I didn't know I knew this until the moment it came out of my mouth.
Mhm,
I said, but
mhm.
you don't want to be successful. You're already successful. You want to know if you're going to be famous. And she
Ah.
blushed and she said, yes. And I'm like, well, ask that then. Because I'm not going to judge anybody. And the Akashic Record Keepers, they are not human. They are pure, unconditional love. They can't judge anybody. So they're not going to be judging. So ask your deep, maybe if it's a dark question to you, like the
Mhm,
secret that you wouldn't share with anyone, ask that.
mhm.
And so her answer was yes, and in fact she is. So that's wonderful. Like 14 years down the line.
Oh,
But and it didn't take that long actually. Uh but yeah, I was going to say that the Akashic Records and the keepers of the Akashic Records are so powerful that during World War II, the
mhm,
Nazis put a lot, and people might know that they put a lot of brain power and money towards a lot of like psychological stuff in the war, like
mhm.
remote seeing, etc. Well, they tried to crack the Akashic Records of the Allies,
Oh, interesting.
and they could not do it.
They couldn't do it.
Right, because the Allies didn't want them to know what their plans were, where where their
Okay.
weapon stores were, and like what their modes of attack were going to be. And so the Akashic Record Keepers are that fierce that they just like, nope.
Okay. It feels so the way I interpret that is this is like if I was doing energy work on someone, if I don't have permission to go
Right.
into their field,
Mhm.
I can't, right?
Exactly.
I have to have permission to help make those changes and to work on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Brain soul is a little like that, but not really. Like
Mm.
it's the power of the spoken word for sure. But I'm able to go into the field and figure out what happened at age 6, what happened with great, 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 great. We did 6 generations back yesterday.
Woo.
Grandpa,
Fun.
sometimes, different lifetimes, depending on what the person's belief system is, and clear the energy out of the way and then rewire the brain and the soul for success,
Yeah.
for what they want. So there's a similarity, but a definite difference.
Yeah. There's a lot of overlap between your work and my work, Louise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a
Yeah.
definite difference.
And I
Um,
think so many people in the world need that kind of work because they're up to big things and they don't
yes.
want to suffer. I mean, there's so much suffering in the world that comes
Mhm.
from outside. We might as well address the internal suffering so we don't have to do that.
It's it's so true. Well, I always believe the inner work is the most powerful anyway.
Well, yes, of course.
So when we're working on our inner self, and for entrepreneurs, what I see is if they do their inner work,
The
the
outer
the
works
outer
itself
stuff
out.
happens, like the
Yeah.
success that they want in their business happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What have been some of the challenge that you might have had in your business?
Well, so this New York mastermind I was a part of, I
Mhm.
loved it so much. And I was kind of the poster child for success for my coach. And in that first year, because this was in a year after I had quit my academic position. So I was
Pretty new,
in
yeah.
diapers, right? And
Uh-huh,
so,
yeah. Uh-huh.
and and I was still sort of like shedding all the mindsets from academia, etc. And I loved going to New York City. I loved meeting with these high-powered women. I loved all of it. And after that first year, my business intuition really started to kick in.
Mhm.
But I abdicated my business intuition in favor of what my coach was telling me.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so
Yeah.
you didn't listen to your own intuition. You were
Yeah.
like honoring your coach. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
that just it didn't work out for me.
Okay.
And
Okay. What a
So
great lesson. Thanks for sharing that lesson to help people see that
yeah,
it really is when you get a gut level feeling about something or an intuitive hit, follow it.
I loved all the women I was in the group with. I mean, I
Mhm.
loved that. And later I was like, well, instead of putting 20 some thousand dollars for for the mastermind, I could have taken all of those women to Paris for a week and had a better time and great memories and, you know, uh, devoted friends for life.
Mhm.
And these people still send me clients all the time, but, like, it might have been even more, if I had just done that. If I had in retrospect, I think that's one thing that I could have done. Just like, "Okay, if I'm
Mhm.
gonna spend this money anyway," because my coach was she saw me kind of not doing what she wanted me to do because I would try to do what she wanted me to do, and it would fail miserably, and then
Mhm.
I would turn it a little bit, and it would be successful, so she was pissed off,
Oh.
and
Mhm.
it just and I wasn't consulting her anymore as much as she wanted me to, and so that
Mhm.
last year, that was hard. So I was in her mastermind for about 3 years, but that
Mhm.
last year was just like, oof,
Mhm.
it
Well,
was
you were
tough.
growing. It was time for you to move. Like we hit a
Yes.
plateau sometimes too, and it's time for us to move.
Mhm.
May have learned some great things in the beginning, but then I remember when Deanna said to me, she was in my mastermind for 4 years. She was just like, I think I've learned everything and I love you, and I don't really know how to, even talk about this exactly. But she was like, I think it's time for me to fly the nest. And she did. She quadrupled her income and she's doing great and all kinds of awesome things have happened. Um, and we still in touch. We're still really good friends, so it's awesome. But
Yeah,
but yeah, sometimes we reach a place too where it's just time to move on. You were growing.
absolutely.
Yeah, you were growing.
And I had clients say the exact kind of thing to me. Like, it
Mhm.
was actually at this point where I was separating from my New York coach, and uh, one of the final straws for her was that I had 3 local clients who just weren't getting the results that everyone else was, including the woman who would fly in from Spain 4 times a year to be sitting in my s sanctuary space, you know?
Mm, mhm.
And I had several people from New York and Washington, DC, and but then the locals, they just for whatever reason I was doing the same thing with them, but, so I told my New York coach that I was gonna release them from their contract a couple months ahead, 'cause I wasn't seeing that they were getting benefit from it, and it was
Mhm.
a financial hardship for them because they weren't getting so much benefit, and she said, "Well, don't do that. That's not aligned." I was like, "Whew, okay." It is for
Mhm.
me, though.
Mm,
It's
mhm.
sounds like you and I aren't aligned. And, so when I let go of those 3 local clients, and then I had some who were already cycling off, and then one woman in DC, she's like, "You know I love you, but I'm really feeling the free agent energy right now." And I said, "Yeah, I love you too. I can't wait to see, like, what you become." And so suddenly I went from, like, a full mastermind to I have one person who lived out her final month, and it was like, "Okay, thank you." And then it was a new era for my business, right? And, so that was interesting, but the fingerprints of the divine were all over that dissolution of my business as it was.
Mhm.
And when I was done, I was like, "Oh, okay. I love everyone. They're doing great work. I am
Mhm.
proud of all the things I have done, and I I was charging good money, but I wasn't charging enough to be carrying them all on my back this
Mhm.
whole time, and that was causing really intense adrenal stress. So I was
Mhm.
riding the line of illness all the time. And once that was done, I was like, wow. So I wrote I wrote like the blog that everyone remembers for me, which was called Oracles Aren't Coaches and the Truth About Easy. And that truth about easy is that there are different levels of easy. Like after
Mhm.
being in academia, doing this work seemed really easy because I wasn't working for expletive deleted type people. And
Mhm.
I was
Mhm.
doing work that soul impact work. And I was giving too much of myself. And so that it wasn't so easy then. So I shifted from being a coach to being an oracle and just really,
Oh, so it's just a different word and the label you gave yourself that helped you move
yeah.
past that. Yeah, because I was just going to ask you, you must, I mean, if you're doing, I mean, like I said, I do similar, not the same, but you have to protect yourself, right? You have to protect your boundaries and have a way to clear the energy between clients
Well, and it's
because
not
it's
that I wasn't
energetic.
doing that. It's that I loved them all so much that I voluntarily would just like carry them all in my heart all the time.
Yes, I understand. And that's a
So,
beautiful thing. That makes, you're really good at what you do.
and it was
Mhm.
kind of a rookie mistake, I think. Right?
Well, there's boundaries, right?
Yeah.
It's learning those boundaries. You can still love somebody that deeply. I mean, I love my
Yes.
people too. That's what I say all the time, but
And
I
set
don't
them down
carry
in
them.
between. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we do have to do that. Hey, give us an example of somebody that you work with and you were doing their Akashic records and the success that they had
Well, let's see.
from the work, like from your work.
I'll tell you, just from one day to the next,
Mhm.
um, I worked with a woman who was in Australia,
Mhm.
and she had been and was currently a client of one of my big clients who's a man. So she had been in his program and he recommended me online. And so she reached out and she had so many things going on, including like a 4-year-old boy. And she had several different businesses. And so when it came time to do her Akashic Records session with me, she right before we started, she sent an email saying, let's just forget about it. Like keep the money, but I can't do these questions. And so I said, you know what? But my specialty is helping people straighten out the questions. So when I saw her questions, I was like, yeah, these are a mess, aren't they? And so I said, let's just come up with an easy entry first question. And
Mhm.
then from there, we can, or I can even ask your keepers, like, let's see, what's a good question? Well, from that easy entry first question, the answer to all of her issues came through immediately. It was that she needed a yardstick, and her yardstick was boxed in, not boxed in. So before she would say yes to anything, she had to measure that idea request with the boxed in, not boxed in yardstick.
Oh, well, she's in her head, not her heart. That's what I'm getting as you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and she also, had some trouble with boundaries too, right? And
Mhm.
was doing all sorts of things and trying all sorts of things. There was a lot of spaghetti being thrown at the wall. And so we got done with the session. Um, the other thing that makes my Akashic Records work special outside of like really making certain that on the question end we're good, there's also an integration call the next day. And at the integration call the next day, and usually I will like want to talk to someone the next morning for them just in case they're having detox symptoms. It's rare, but I don't want people to suffer, right? They might get I
Mhm.
specialize in clearing limiting beliefs. And so if there's
Mhm.
some of that that wasn't completely let go of on the physical, it might be banging around giving them a really bad headache. So I don't want that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, but Australia. So, with the 14-hour time difference, it was she had had, she had had a lot of time. Um, and so she um, came back to me the next day. It was the next morning for me, but it was the next late day for her. And she said, okay, I um, I sold my half of the business that I had with this business partner to him. So like the main business, the software business, that's sold. I also, I love taking wedding photos, but I hate editing them. We talked about this yesterday. So I hired someone, as the keeper suggested, I hired someone to do the editing so I could just do the thing I love. I'm like, that's
Mhm.
great. And she said, and I talked to my husband about like the roles that he needs to take at the house because I've just been stressed out.
Mhm.
And and so she's like, everything all the way down. Hello, microphone.
Mhm.
All the way down, she was like, yeah, I these were the things that were making me feel boxed in. And now
Nice.
I don't feel boxed in anymore. Like I'm so happy. And once because that was actually the ultimate answer to all the things, we had a little extra time at the end of her session and she said, "Well, you know, if I weren't so busy all the time, I'd love to have another child and I'd love to have a girl," she said.
Oh.
And I said, "Well, you know," and I told her that I had seen um like a ladybug thing for this new child she was going to have. I'm like, there's a piece of, she was thinking, well, maybe I could like start a kids clothing company. And I was like, is that going to make you feel boxed in? She's like, oh, okay. But I said, there is a ladybug that I'm seeing here. And she
Mhm.
said, okay. And so not a year later, first of all, she sends me this video with a gender reveal cake and it ends up being pink. She sends me the video. I'm like,
Aw.
oh, that's wonderful. And then when she got out of having the child, she um she sent me a voicemail and she said, Elizabeth, you're not going to believe it. I got to the maternity level of the hospital. They took me to my room. There was a ladybug balloon tied to my door.
I love that. That's awesome.
And
Isn't
so
it?
she's still
Yeah.
really successful. She's got this
Uh-huh.
amazing wedding photography business going, and she does some things on the side, but she's like, yeah, she if she doesn't want to say yes to the ladies auxiliary and all these other things, she's like, nope, she has her yardstick.
She gets to stay focused on her passions,
Yeah.
and you helped her be really clear about that. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. That's beautiful.
And I share about the boxed in, not boxed in thing because
Mhm.
I asked her and she said that she's fine with me sharing that thing because it's such a tool that helps her. She shares it with all her people. Like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, just if it's squeezing you, don't say yes.
Right. It's not the right thing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I believe that everyone has a high intuition,
Yeah. Oh,
and
me too.
some people
100%.
have more. It's just really about developing it and trusting it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as,
Mhm.
as a recovered academic, I can tell you that I was much more intuitive than I wanted to believe myself to be. One thing
Mhm.
when I
Mhm.
was, this was before I was tenured, uh, and it was really time for me to get my act together and get my monograph published. A monograph is a, single author book.
Mhm.
And, and all my friends were like, okay, you only have 2 more years before the tenure review. You need to have your book. And if it's not going to be published by a university press, you need to self publish it. And I was like, yeah. But I just had been dragging my feet on sending it out. But I was at the Modern Language Association meeting, which was my meeting because I was a French professor. And they had a big book fair, of course, with all the publishers there. And I went in and I started to look around. And um, one of the women I had taken a contemporary feminism class with as an undergrad had a book on the shelf. And so I said hi to the publisher who was there, manning the booth, and I said, "Yeah, my name's Elizabeth, and I do have a manuscript ready to go on Violette Leduc and reader seduction." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, send me the first chapter." And I was like, "Okay." The first time I pitched it, it was picked up.
Nice.
And it's because it had never been the right moment before. I could have, given myself a lot of heartache and headache sending it out to the wrong people. But when I was standing there in that
Mhm.
space with that woman, I'm like, oh, this is the moment to
Right,
pick.
you just have this inner knowing. Yes,
Yeah.
beautiful. Well, I love how you've taken your inner knowing, your intuition, and created your entrepreneurial business with it, right?
Thank you.
All
Me
the
too.
work that you're doing in the world and on the amazing women that you're helping, across the globe. Sounds like across the globe. Hey, when
Yeah.
you're not working, let's get to know Elizabeth when she's not doing her Akashic readings. What do you like to do in your free time, Elizabeth?
Oh my goodness. Well, I love to walk in nature. I'm a meditator. I play with crystals all the time. I'm surrounded in this space with crystals. I'm a trained priestess too, and so I commune with nature a lot.
Mhm.
And so I like creating every space I'm in is a ritual space.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
but I'm also like right now I'm quite politically active, and it's a time, you know, and I have friends who are like, no, I'm 100% New Earth. I don't come and infect me with your like fear and hate. And I'm like, I don't think I'm infectious, but all right, if that's how you feel about me, then so be it. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I my daughter is just left for college, so I'm kind of doing the new thing, and but I do love live music. I was just at a music festival in Florida, I guess 2 weeks ago almost. This weekend will be 2 weeks.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
beautiful. You have a beautiful, beautiful spirit and a beautiful soul.
oh, thank you
And
so
thanks so
much.
much for like sharing with us today. I usually ask this. This is the Brain Soul Success Show. So I say, hey, what brain tip can you leave our audience with here from your background and experience?
Well, I would say to trust that your brain is both the analytical part and the intuitive part.
Nice.
And to trust that they can work together. And I spent decades not trusting that. And now
Mhm.
that I do, I'm like, oh, that was kind of silly, huh? But
Mhm.
also, I know there are no lost steps. I was exactly where I needed to be when I needed to be,
Mhm.
even for the steps where it slowed me down or I was frustrated because, I needed to learn that lesson, I guess.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right?
Yeah,
Um,
beautiful. Yes, beautiful. The brain is, yes, it's both I always think of it as both a spiritual organ and a physical organ.
absolutely.
If you want to use the word organ, or whatever. But yeah. No, that's a great tip. And people listening here, they're going to want to know how to get a hold of you too, Elizabeth. So what's the best contact for you?
Mm. Elizabeth at elizabethlocey.com. And if you're
Okay.
watching the screen, my name is spelled out below. So it's Locey, and it's Elizabeth with a Z. And just email me. I've got stuff up on my website. I'm not super active on the social channels, um, but I am there sometimes. And
Okay.
I am working on finalizing my own podcast. So when that's up and running, Louise, you'll be my first guest, and that'll be a lot of fun.
Oh,
Thank you
thank you.
so
And I'm
much for
excited
having
for
me.
you to start that. You're going to have so much fun. I love doing this. Yes, and you can reach Elizabeth too at elizabethlocey.com, and we'll put all the links here. She's got an amazing free gift for you too. So check that out. And gosh, Elizabeth, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's
So,
been
so
my pleasure.
appreciate your work in the world. So yeah, remember everyone, follow your heart, but take your brain with you.
That's right.